Dry grass. Late morning. The air is already shaking with heat. Two animals face each other across 2 feet of open ground. One of them is about to attack. The other one has already won. But nothing about this scene tells you which is which. The cobra rises. Ribs behind its skull swing outward and pull the loose skin of its neck into a wide, flat hood. This is not decoration. It is a signal. It makes the animal look larger, taller, harder to swallow. Most creatures that see it stop moving and back away. The ones that don't back away meet the second half of the display. The strike. We tend to describe it in terms of speed, but speed is the wrong measurement. What matters is time. In laboratory work published in 2016, researchers filmed snake strikes at high frame rates and found that a complete strike, launch, contact, recoil, was over in roughly 50 to 90 milliseconds. A human blink takes longer than that. Your eye needs about 200 milliseconds just to register something has moved and send the signal to act. By the time your brain has finished the sentence, "It's coming," the strike has already happened, landed, and withdrawn. You do not dodge it. You are simply told about it afterward, and that is only the delivery system. The cargo is worse. Cobra venom is loaded with a family of proteins called alpha neurotoxins. They are small, stable, and built for one job. Once inside the bloodstream, they travel to the places where nerves meet muscle, and they shut the connection down. The victim does not thrash. It does not convulse. It goes soft. Eyelids droop first, then the jaw, then the neck. The muscles are undamaged and perfectly healthy, but they can no longer hear the nerves telling them to move. In serious cases, the last muscles to fail are the ones that pull air into the lungs. The animal stays conscious while its own body stops answering. This is not a rare or exotic threat. The World Health Organization estimates that snakebite kills somewhere between 81,000 and 138,000 people every year. In India alone, one large mortality study put the yearly average near 58,000 deaths. The spectacled cobra is on the short list of species responsible for most of them. So here is an animal with a weapon that outruns nervous systems, carrying a poison that switches off bodies from the inside. Almost nothing that meets it in the open survives. Almost. Because something is moving through the grass toward it right now. Something small. And it is not moving away. It weighs less than a house cat. The Indian grey mongoose is a low, narrow animal, with short legs and a long tapered body, built for tunnels and undergrowth. It hunts in daylight. It eats almost anything: beetles, rodents, birds' eggs, lizards, fruit when there's nothing better. On paper it is prey. It is small, warm-blooded, and made of exactly the kind of meat a cobra eats. Watch what happens when the two meet. The mongoose does not freeze. It does not flatten itself into the grass. It closes the distance, stops just short, and begins to circle. That single detail rewrites the entire scene, because the cobra's raised hood is not an attack posture, it is a warning. The display costs the snake energy and exposes it. Venom is metabolically expensive to produce, and a snake that empties its glands defensively has nothing left for hunting. A cobra standing tall with its hood spread is an animal asking to be left alone. It is the mongoose that has chosen this. Field observations across the mongoose family document them actively hunting snakes, including highly venomous species. This is not an accident of two animals bumping into each other on a path. The mongoose approaches. The mongoose stays. The mongoose sets the range. We have to be careful with our language here. The mongoose is not brave. It does not know what venom is, and it is not weighing risk against reward. What we are watching is a behavior pattern shaped over an enormous span of time, running in an animal built to execute it. But the effect is the same as a plan. The snake believes it is defending itself. It is being hunted. Which raises the obvious problem. Whatever the mongoose is doing, it still has to survive a strike that finishes faster than a nervous system can process. So how? The answer starts with what the mongoose refuses to do. It never stands still. The mongoose circles low, weight forward, feet constantly resetting. It bobs, it feints, it darts in and pulls back. To a viewer, it looks like taunting. Mechanically, it is something colder than that. It is range management. A snake cannot strike at any distance it likes. It has to throw a section of its own body forward, which means its reach is limited, commonly estimated at somewhere between a third and half of its total length. Outside that arc, the most dangerous animal in the field cannot touch anything. The mongoose lives on the edge of that arc. And here is the part that gets misunderstood in almost every version of this story. The mongoose is probably not reacting to the strike. Reacting to a strike already in flight would require it to see, decide, and move inside a window that lasts a fraction of a blink. Nothing with a spinal cord and muscles is comfortably beating that. What researchers believe is happening is subtler. Before a snake launches, it loads. The neck folds into an S-curve, the body tenses, muscle tension builds. Those preparations are visible, and they happen before the fast part begins. The mongoose does not appear to be dodging the strike. It appears to be dodging the decision. That is a completely different problem, and a solvable one. If you move the instant the wind-up begins, you are no longer racing the snake's speed. You are racing its commitment. And a strike, once launched, cannot be steered. It should be said plainly. The fine detail of mongoose reaction timing has not been measured in a laboratory the way snake strikes have. Most of what we know comes from field observation and slowed-down footage. The mechanism is well supported. The exact numbers are not in yet, but watch enough of these encounters and you notice something. The dodge fails. Not every time, not most times, but eventually the snake reads the movement, or the mongoose commits a half step too early, and the strike lands. Fangs hit fur. By every rule we've established, the fight should be over. It isn't. Watch the mongoose again, in the seconds before contact. It gets bigger. Every hair on its body stands up. The tail thickens into a brush. The outline swells. Some observers describe the animal appearing to nearly double in size. Beneath that cloud of raised fur, the actual body has not changed at all. Mongoose fur is coarse, dense, and unusually loose over the skin. That combination appears to matter here in two separate ways. The first is targeting. A striking snake aims at an outline. If the outline is a fist-sized ball of raised hair, and the animal inside it is much smaller and lower, the strike arrives where the mongoose looks like it is, not where it actually is. A hit can land in the fur layer and never reach skin. The second is contact. Fangs are needles. They are optimized to enter flesh, not to punch through a dense mat of hair sitting loose over sliding skin. Long guard hairs can foul the fangs, and loose skin gives when pushed, rather than holding firm for penetration. Honesty matters here, so let's be exact about what we know. The raised fur defense is well documented in observation. It is not well quantified in the lab. Nobody has published a solid figure for what percentage of strikes the coat deflects. When you hear this described as armor, understand that it is not armor in the sense of a shell. It is margin. It converts some hits into misses, and it turns some deep bites into shallow ones. Margin is enough, most of the time. Most of the time is not always. Push the encounter long enough, and these standoffs can run for many minutes, and a strike gets through clean. Fangs into skin, muscles in the venom glands squeeze. The dose goes in. The mongoose keeps circling. To understand why, we have to go down to the place where a nerve touches a muscle. Your body moves by chemistry, not electricity. When a nerve wants a muscle to contract, it releases a small molecule called acetylcholine into a microscopic gap. On the far side of that gap, the muscle is covered in receptors, protein structures shaped to catch that specific molecule. Think of it as a lock and a key. Acetylcholine arrives. It fits. The lock turns. The muscle contracts. Cobra alpha neurotoxin is a counterfeit key. It is larger than acetylcholine and shaped differently, but one part of it matches the lock closely enough to slide in, and then it stays. It jams the mechanism and does not let go. The real key arrives and finds the lock already occupied. The nerve keeps shouting, the muscle never hears it. That is the paralysis. That is the whole trick. Now the mongoose. In 1992, a team of researchers published work in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences with a title that says exactly what it found: How the Mongoose Can Fight the Snake. They compared the structure of the mongoose's acetylcholine receptor to the standard mammal version. The binding site was different. Several amino acids in the region where the toxin normally attaches had been swapped for others. One of those swaps did something specific and elegant. It created an attachment point for a sugar group, a small molecular tag the cell adds onto the finished protein. That sugar sits right at the mouth of the lock. Acetylcholine is tiny. It slips past the sugar without difficulty and does its job. The mongoose's muscles work normally. Alpha neurotoxin is a bulky protein. It arrives at the receptor and cannot get into position. The lock it evolved to jam is still there, but the approach is blocked. The venom is not destroyed. It is not neutralized in the blood. It is not fought off. It simply reaches its target and finds that the target no longer accepts it. And the mongoose is not alone in this. Similar changes to the same receptor have been found in the honey badger, the hedgehog, and the pig, and in several snakes themselves, which need protection from their own venom. These lineages did not inherit the solution from a shared ancestor. They arrived at the same molecular answer independently, which tells us something about how narrow the possible solutions are. Now the essential correction, because this is where most tellings go wrong: resistance is not immunity. A large enough dose still overwhelms the system. Cobra venom also contains cytotoxins, which attack tissue directly and are not stopped by a modified receptor at all. Mongooses are bitten in these fights. Mongooses die in these fights. The mutation does not make the mongoose invulnerable, it makes the cobra's primary weapon unreliable. And that changes what kind of fight this is. Go back to the standoff. From the snake's side, everything is working. The hood is spread. The posture is correct. The strike is fast, well aimed, and delivers a full dose into a small, warm-blooded animal. Against nearly any other creature of that size on that continent, the encounter would already be finished. Against this one, nothing happens. The venom that the cobra's ancestors spent millions of years refining, the chemistry that makes it one of the most feared animals on Earth, was rendered unreliable against this particular opponent before either animal was born. Not during the fight, before it. Somewhere far back in the mongoose lineage, a handful of amino acids changed in a receptor most animals never think about, and a sugar group settled into place at the mouth of a lock. That was the fight. Everything happening in this patch of grass is just the paperwork. The snake has no way to detect this. There is no signal, no smell, no visible difference. It strikes, connects, and waits for a collapse that does not come, and it will keep striking, because striking is what it has. Meanwhile, the mongoose is doing arithmetic with distance and fatigue. Each strike costs the snake. Muscles tire. Venom reserves drain. The hood, held high, becomes harder to hold. Between attacks, the recovery gets a little slower, and the S-curve takes a little longer to reload. The mongoose is fresh. It has been circling. And then the pattern breaks. The mongoose stops retreating after a miss and goes forward instead, past the fangs, onto the neck, and closes its jaws on the back of the skull. Now, who really wins? Be careful with the answer. Mongooses lose these fights. Field records include cobras killing mongooses, and any encounter where the venom dose runs high or the bite lands deep can go the other way. This is not a guaranteed outcome. It is a favorable one, and in the longer view, there is no winner at all, because the contest hasn't stopped. Venom composition varies between cobra populations and shifts over evolutionary time. Resistance varies between mongoose species and populations. Each side keeps adjusting to the other, and neither one is finishing the job. What we are watching is not a result. It is one frame of an argument that has been running for millions of years and is still running right now. Two animals in dry grass, 2 feet apart. One carrying a weapon refined over an unimaginable span of time. One carrying the answer to it, written into a protein it will never know it has. Neither of them understands what is actually happening here. We do.